we are living in a moment of history that perhaps years from now, a generation from now, they might be reading about what was written about this week in history.
War really changes lives. It separates people, but at the same time, sometimes those separation causes people to draw near to their creator.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Golden Hour Podcast, brought to you by the Polar Pro Studio. I'm your host, Dave Mays, and today is a special emergency episode due to what's happening in Ukraine. One of my best friends, Brock Gill, is a magician and owner of a nonprofit that for the last 3 years has been doing humanitarian work in Ukraine, specifically with a man named Karin. In this episode, we will be speaking to both Brock and Karin about what is going on in Ukraine and hearing the first-hand accounts from Karin himself. I know this isn't our typical type of episode, but I feel that this is the type of information that just needs to be shared. So without any further ado, let's listen into my conversation with Brock Gill and Karin. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the Golden Hour Podcast. You are in Moldova now, is that correct?
Yes, I'm currently in Moldova. Yeah, neighboring country to Ukraine.
This is just a crazy time right now in Ukraine. I just want to hear your story about how you guys met and what's currently going on. Karin, we want to hear your story.
We were doing shows in Ukraine a few years ago, and Karin was our interpreter and host, and we worked alongside him in many different ways at the universities that we were performing at, and in the town square. We had a big show, a couple of thousand people come. He helped put all of that together and facilitated a lot. We just connected with him really well and stayed in touch, and later just felt like we needed to kind of partner and be almost like a team where we could help facilitate the ongoing work that he's doing there in Ukraine with orphans, with the poor people that live in villages. And so what we started doing was trying to find ways to fund some efforts where he would take food packages into villages and feed the widows and the really poor people in those remote villages all around Ukraine. Well, that relationship grew and grew, and just a few weeks ago, or I guess it was in December, we started realizing that there was something not feeling right with this Russian situation, and we were praying and we were listening and we were watching, and I guess it was about 8 days ago, maybe 10 days ago, we were in the final hours of preparation, and I remember, I forget which night it was now, but I texted Karin and said, "Go now, run." And he had already filled up his tank, which proved to be a very, very smart thing. He was living in Odessa, and he took his family I'll let him tell this part with details, but he took his family and ran to the border and got out of Ukraine within 1 hour of the border closing as the Russians were invading. And so I'll let him tell the details and how crazy the things he saw along the way. But that's kind of a little bit of how we met in our history. And we have an ongoing relationship as a part of my nonprofit called Brock Gill Creative to help facilitate and fuel the work that he does in Eastern Europe.
Karin, amazing story. Yeah, it's just crazy to see what's going on over there with the news, but you're actually there. You're experiencing it, and you're seeing the people that are needing to get out. You're facilitating people. You're putting them in homes. You're feeding them, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Tell me what's going on from your experience.
It's a real war. It's a real war. It was an attack from Russia, and even though they were lying to the whole world that for the last few years that they will never attack Ukraine. They have no intentions to do so. But everybody kind of knew, especially in the last few months, that it was not coincident that they are gathering so many troops and so many military around our borders. And basically, they were saying that this is just an exercise. But you don't bring 150,000 troops and all kinds of weaponry to borders and surround one nation if you want to do just simple exercise. That costs a lot to do that. So, you got to do that if you're planning to attack, and which they did on the early morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. Sounds familiar? Something like that happened in 1941 when Hitler attacked Soviet Union early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning of June 22nd, without any warning. So without any warning, we could see the signs. I mean, there were warning signs and red flags that were kind of flashing and saying that something going to happen, something about to happen. But of course, majority of people in Ukraine, they were still hoping till the last minute that it's not going to happen, that it's just that just America and Russia, just playing who's stronger, just playing with their muscles and showing off and just threatening each other. But I guess Putin wasn't just playing this time. He did it. And on 5 o'clock in the morning, we heard the bombing near my apartment complex. It was like boom, 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 and I woke up, and my wife woke up, and we realized that it wasn't just the fireworks, but it was something different. And then it repeated again, boom, 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 and by God's grace, we managed to pack. We have 4 children, so, and I mean, those who have more than one child knows that to packing up kids, it takes some time, but we were able to do it in 40 minutes. Just throw an emergency closing that we would need documents, grab our documents, our passports. And an hour after that, we were on our way to the border to Republic of Moldova, which is a neighboring nation and only 50 miles away from Odessa, the border. So we drove before it started chaos and panicking, because if I would have stayed there an hour later, it would have been hard to leave. So and then the martial law was implemented in our country, and for men from 18 to 60, it's even harder to leave if you don't have 3 children minor age. Then that's okay, they'll let you go. So since we left, Russia attacked from every direction, from the north, from the east, from the south. The battles are going on. It's really hot there. It's really a lot of devastation, and I mean, I don't want to focus on talking about all this negative stuff, but the consequences of war, it's always death, sorrow, pain, sufferings, and scattered people who don't know what to do, where to run for their lives, for their families, for their children. So, and that's why we relocated in Moldova, and immediately we organized the volunteers headquartered for refugees from Ukraine, on the basis of one of our local evangelical churches, who's pastor of that church is a very dear friend of mine. And so what we're doing is we're facilitating every day from 50 to 70 refugees only in this building, and then plus hundreds in different other locations around Moldova and Chisinau, which is the capital of Moldova. We're providing them food and some necessary things for those who are staying longer in Moldova, all the necessities for for a couple of weeks to survive. And then, but most of the people, they're transiting Moldova and going further to Europe, to Western nations like Germany, Austria, and etc. So, and what we're hearing from Ukraine, that our army is standing strong. Our army is defending, because Russians were thinking that they will take the whole country in 2 days. But it turned out that it's not so. It's been already 8 days of war, and they haven't been successful for them. They lost a lot of casualties, a lot of people, and they haven't taken any major big cities yet. But the fight is going there real. I mean, like a real war, like you would see in the movies, with all the buildings collapsing. They're shooting missiles into residential areas. But in Russia, they're reporting that they're not shooting residential or civil areas, civil buildings, but they're doing that, and a lot of innocent people, of course, children and women and men and elderly people are dying under the collapse of those buildings.
I should probably also jump in and say another guy that we're really, really close to and just really adore. One of my favorite people. He's a strong man, and we call him Z. He's a big dude, and he works. He performs as a strong man and just loves people. And he's a part of the network, the team that Karin has there. And we did a show with him in Odessa, and just were absolutely amazed at the feats of strength that he does. He's currently hiding in a basement. He's been there. This is, I think, day 8. He's been hiding. We've told him, do not leave, even though he wants to leave. He's a big guy. He could go rip necks off of people. He's just huge, but he's hiding because we know that if he's discovered, they're going to think he's like special forces, soldier. But he's currently hiding, and is surrounded by the Russian forces. Like, it is a critical situation. We are praying for him every day. We are so worried about him and his family as they're hiding in the basement with his 7-year-old and 4-year-old boys.
He's stuck in his town, which is in the north, close to the border of Russia. And he's still there hiding with his 2 children and his wife in a basement. And I just received a short message from him about 30 minutes ago. Short, one sentence. Karen, it's very bad here. I mean, that means that there's a battle on the streets of his town right now. So that's the thing. But in the midst of all that, we also hearing some reports of miracles, of some great testimonies. Like one of our brothers from our church, he's an officer in Ukrainian military, and he shared with us this testimony that he and his men were sitting in hiding and looking out for Russian Marines to land on the shore. And at that very moment, he started to pray. And he felt that he needs to take his men and leave that spot where they were sitting in hiding. As soon as they did it, they shot the bombs on that very spot. Just a couple minutes after that, they missed, and it was a miracle. Also, the remainings of those that still in Odessa, in our church in Odessa, there's still a team that remaining there. They couldn't leave. They're praying that God would send the sea storms, because our city is located on the Black Sea, and it's for the last 3 days. It's been so stormy on the Black Sea that Russian ships, military ships, cannot do the landing of their Marines on our shores. So it's we hear, and I hear all these stories every day coming, and so it's it's a sad situation, but at the same time, we as ministers, we as people who can bring comfort and some encouragement to those people who are lost, who are discouraged. Some of them are in depression. Yesterday I was consulting and a lot of people, and all you just need to do is just listen to them. Listen, because that's the best thing for now for these people, is to listen their pain and of course give them a solution. So.
And there's a lot of refugees coming into Moldova and, like you said, surrounding areas. What are you seeing with that in terms of just people flooding in? Are you housing people into other people's homes, or are people taking in refugees?
Yeah. Praise God that, Moldavian people, they stood out for Ukraine, and we were not expecting that so many people will respond and would like to, help and offer their homes, their apartments, their facilities to host the refugees. Same thing in Poland, those 3 nations that we neighbor with, Moldova, Romania, and Poland. I mean, this situation really revealed who is who and who is a true neighbor when difficult time comes, who's really out there, to open their arms and receive you and give you all kinds of help. So we're trying to host. I mean, but we're running out of the options, that's for sure, because Moldova is a small country, so it's really a limited amount of space and places where we can host people, because they're coming by thousands now, and especially since they started now actively, shooting and shelling around Odessa. More people start fleeing. Like yesterday, it was the peak of the refugees, and it was one of those days when you wish you would never go through this day ever in your life. That was the day yesterday.
It feels like,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, it just feels like we're living in a history in history already. Like, this is unfathomable in the modern age that something like this is happening. This is Cold War, World War II type stuff. I mean, what are you feeling with all this right now?
Well, I'm feeling that we will win. Ukraine will win at the end. I'm feeling that Russia's regime and Belarusian regime, they will break on Ukraine. Ukraine, it's like a stumbling stone for them, and they're gonna get crushed, because already within the Russia, with the new sanctions that U.S. and European Union applied after the attack on Ukraine, right now Russia's economy is going down the hill. They're suffering so bad. They're losing billions of money. Everything's stopped. People are lining up at the cash machines to withdraw cash, and there's no cash already in those ATMs and the banks. And so they're I have a friend who lives in Moscow, and he sent a short message yesterday. He said it's crazy what's going on here too. I mean, there's no war, there's no bomb explosions, but there's another thing: economy is going down. And so we are believing and hoping that this will finally cause and open the eyes of the Russian people to realize that they're living under evil regime of Mr. Putin, and finally maybe they will stand up like the Ukraine did 8 years ago, and like we stood up against the regime we had 8 years ago on our revolution on Maidan. And finally that Russians will also stand up and say that's enough is enough, and so let's stop this guy, and let's deal with this. We don't want to live in a country like that. So, but unfortunately a lot of Russians are blinded by the propaganda, and they think that their army came to liberate us from Nazis and fascists. That's what their propaganda was feeding Russian population, is that Ukraine on the oppression of the fascists, and coming to liberate the brotherly nation, Slavic nation of Ukraine. That's what they truly and honestly believe. That's what they're doing. They're helping us. That's sort of speaking. So,
Karin, here's what's happening right now, and this is where I want you to give us kind of a plan. We've seen a lot of donations come in this week because it's very exciting. There's a lot going on. The news is highlighting the problem, and everybody wants to do something right now. And we are funneling money to you to help make sure that refugees have a bed and get fed, and like work that's happening right now. Like we're funneling that money to you to put it to work right away. But what we fear is, and I want you to speak to this, donations are coming in today, but 3 months from now or 6 months from now, that work will be ongoing and the need will still be there, because this isn't a 1 week thing. This isn't like, oh, we're going to go back to normal in a couple of weeks. Like, this is a serious problem. This is a humanitarian problem that's going to last for a long time. These are people that have left homes, left jobs, left cars behind, everything. They left everything to cross the border in an emergency without even being able to bring luggage. They have to start over in a new country. Sometimes they don't even speak the language in the new country. And this is a serious problem. How can we help long-term solve some of this problem and really change people's lives more than just this week? But how can we help you and your network there long-term?
I think that one of the major things that would be needed is people who can also minister to these people, because as I mentioned, I see that a lot of organizations, a lot of humanitarian organizations and governments of European countries are standing out and funding and sending support and providing food and etc. But what it would be lacking is that very thing of how to reach these people, how to minister to their hearts, and that's where we would need volunteers who are trained because you can give them a food package 1-2 times, you can give them clothing, but still inside they will be broken, and they would have no idea what to do, how to live. They won't see any purpose. There's frustration and discouragement. And that's why I think the major emphasis for us should be in long term is to create a platform or create a team of people, trained people who can minister to those people, not only psychologically, but also spiritually, and bringing life and hope and comfort. And because sometimes a few words, a few sentences of hope can really do much more, bring a much more blessing than any aid, honestly. So, and of course, the resources would be needed as well for that, and as well as for continue to help those that are in really desperate situation. Like those who would need food and other stuff. But because a lot of the refugees are escaping to Europe, European Union has set up pretty good package of aid for those people, for those refugees. So I don't think they're going to starve or be without clothing, but they will be starving inside without, message of hope, without without qualified people who can come and minister to them, not just lecture them, but minister to their heart, to their soul. And I think this is what I really want to focus on, because there's only you limited in how many people you can feed and clothe. You can do it. It's tens of thousands of people. It's 100,000 people. I think right now approximately 250 to 300,000 Ukrainians are already gone, left the country. So that's why, and of course we won't be able to help all of them, but definitely we will help some. But I think if we can reach them with a message of hope that will bring comfort and give them, strength inside to not give up and not to, be there alone and discouraged and in depression. So that I think would be a great thing. But for that, we need a team, of course. We need to equip the team to do that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I want to speak to is what you're saying right now is the fact that there is a humanitarian need and also a emotional and spiritual need that people have, that right now there's a transition where they're going from one country to another, and you're helping feed them and getting them, clothed and that sort of thing, like in the immediate. But eventually they're going to be in a country where the government or others will kind of help get them going. But what will remain is that need that the government can't necessarily fill. There's people that are dealing with PTSD. They've been snatched out of their country. And imagine a young teenage or an 8-year-old boy or a 13-year-old girl who doesn't understand all of this. And there's a lot of questions they're going to have that just simply can't be answered. We need real people that can help love these people, like on the ground, like kind of boots on the ground for that purpose. And that's where we're behind you, Karin, and your the team that you assemble in today Moldova, but it looks like it's going to be spread into other neighboring countries.
Yes, because I'm receiving phone calls every day from my friends in Romania, because the thousands and thousands of Ukrainians now stuck in Romania, they went there because a lot of people, they wanted to leave Moldova as soon as possible, because if and I don't want to say that, but in the worst scenario, if our army will not prevail, for Russians it's their plan to take Moldova too, because Moldova is not in NATO. Moldova was borders with the former Soviet Union, and it was part of Soviet Union, and Putin intends to rebuild the former borders. So a lot of people fleeing to Romania because Romania is part of NATO, and then if he attacks Romania, he takes the whole NATO alliance. So that's why a lot of people end up being in. And calls me and he says, Karen, they don't speak Romanian, they don't speak English. Unfortunately, a lot of Ukrainians, they don't speak English, most I would say, and they only speak Russian and Ukrainian. He said, and we need people here who speak Russian and Romanian, or Russian and English, who can help to minister, to reach them, to gather them. So that's why I am really considering to go moving there and and doing this kind of work, this work that will bring some healing to their emotions in the places where they're now gathered. So yeah.
Have you seen or experienced anything or any stories that you could share about you personally ministering to people?
Yeah. We were just we were ministering to people here yesterday and the day before, and I think the greatest miracle that I could witness right now is that when you share with them the message of hope, when you tell them the simple words of Jesus, when he says that all who are burdened and weary, come to me and you will find the rest for your souls. People just start crying. They're breaking tears. And then it's just like, and for me, this is the greatest miracle, when you can see how the power that contains the word of God can heal their soul, can bring hope, can restore, can put the smile back on their face. I think this is the greatest miracle that we can experience, and we even had one lady, she's maybe in her late 30s. She was here with her husband, who is Israeli, and they stayed for one day at our temporary refugee camp here, and then he left. He flew back to Israel, but she stayed. And I asked her, why did you stay? Well, she said, well, first of all, she couldn't leave because she doesn't have a passport, and Israel doesn't receive without documents. And she said, well, I just saw you guys doing this kind of work here. I decided to stay in Moldova since I can't go anywhere else. And I decided to just dedicate my whole time to volunteer and help you here at the headquarters, and she was not Christian. So, we prayed for her. We led her to the Lord. And now she's a born again Christian doing helping other volunteers. So this has just happened in the last 2 days. So we're expecting more miracles like that. War really changes lives. It separates people, but at the same time, sometimes those separation causes people to draw near to their Creator.
So thank you, Karin, for sharing these amazing stories. Obviously, if somebody's watching or listening to this and they happen to be bilingual and can get out there to help, of course, that would be awesome. But a lot of us just feel a little helpless because we can't get over there. We don't speak the languages. What are some things that the people in America, people in other Western countries, what are some things that we can do to help right now?
Keep praying that the Ukrainian army will prevail and that we won't lose our independence, that we will not become one of the Russia's banana republics. And secondly, of course, I want to encourage all our listeners, if if there's anything you can come up, some ideas or maybe creative ideas that you can help. I mean, anything could be useful here. All the resources, money, prayers, I don't know, Samaritan box, whatever. It's anything. Definitely we can use it to, as an open door to bring the message of hope to this desperate people right now.
So Brock, you've been working in the Ukraine for several years, and obviously right now the need is huge. How can people give towards Karin and what's going on over in Ukraine?
Yeah, you're right. We've been there for a while, and so our heart is with those people. And we're a small organization, very small, and it also makes us nimble. So we were able to reallocate some funds and quickly kind of rush to the urgent need. But we know that this is going to be a long-term effort. So money that comes in on our website, brockgillcreative.com, that money we're setting aside for the long-term impact for what's happening in Ukraine, or more specifically now beyond the borders of Ukraine. And we've been feeding the poor there for quite some time. And this is not some flash in the pan, like we decided to do this because it was all trendy or exciting. Like we're invested there. We are invested and love the people there. And we work with people in different parts of the world. But like I said, we're a small little organization. And I've been doing this for 25 years. But we're not going anywhere. This is for the long run. Like, we hope, and our plan is to make a difference in people's lives for many years to come, because we think that the devastation will have a residual effect that will go for a long, long time. So we're in it. We're in it for a long time.
Great. And maybe we could follow up in a couple of months and see how things are going as well. So yeah, everybody go to brockgillcreative.com. You can support directly there. All the technical details are listed on his site there. And like Brock said, before the war even happened, they've been involved in Ukraine working with Karin. Karin, what a massive, huge honor to have you on the show today and to talk to you and to meet you. I hope to meet you in person.
Same-wise.
I hope to meet you in person someday, and would love to come shoot a video or do some magic and minister and do some cool stuff with you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Definitely after the war, we will have to go back to Ukraine, and people would need, especially magic shows, because that's something that can, get their mind off the consequences of the war. That's for sure.
100%.
We'll be there.
Same wise. Was honored to chat with you and with all our listeners. We're sending our greetings and blessings and all the best for all of you guys.